God, Mum, you're not on Tinder.
Most people call it plenty of fuck.
We're going to make you a profile.
The Playing with Matches podcast, where women talk about their experiences dating online. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Playing with Matches. Today's a little different in that we've revealed the full name of our interviewee, and that is because Kate Smurthwaite is a public figure or celebrity, or in better words, her own words, for example, or at least those on our website. Kate Smurthwaite is a left-wing feminist, atheist, polyamorous comedian and activist. She's also the host and star of News at Kate. I've watched a few episodes of News at Kate. It's on her YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, as well as to her website. She addresses many hot topics and serious news stories, and has appeared on many TV and radio shows where she eloquently defends her causes, often against quite aggressive or dismissive opponents. Those are my words. Back to her words on this topic, that of online dating. I think this is a great episode where Kate talks about navigating that world as a polyamorous woman. I think we all know the term polyamorous, but let's go to the OED for full clarification. Polyamorous is an adjective characterized by or involved in the practice of engaging in multiple romantic and typically sexual relationships with the consent of all the people involved. I think that's pretty clear. Kate talks about reverse dating, a concept that was new to me. She talks about a Facebook page she set up called OK Stupid, where women can share unusual or unpleasant messages from men. She gives me a tour of that Facebook page at the end as well. Kate was one of the first people I interviewed for this project, I think the second or third maybe. I was a little nervous, which is something I don't like to admit to very often, but I was. Partly because it was early days and I wasn't sure where this was going, and Kate is a professional when it comes to interviews, so I guess there are a few insecurity issues there. That and the inevitable concerns about being a man asking women to tell me about their online dating experiences, particularly one who is, in her own words, a feminist and activist. But Kate was very open and charming, and thanks in large part to her, the whole thing went very smoothly, from my point of view at least. Apart from the fact that I just bought a new webcam, I think Kate couldn't hear much of what I was saying. Maybe that even helped, I don't know. So let's silence me again now and go straight to Kate. I'll be back later for a bit of a sign-off waffle. Take it away, Kate.
Hello, I'm Kate Smurthwaite, and I'm a comedian and feminist campaigner and stuff. And I guess I've been online dating on and off for a very long time. I'm polyamorous, so the fact that I might get into a relationship doesn't mean that I stop dating. I carry on dating. I see more than one person at a time. So, and I've met, I think, at least half of the people that I date these days I met online. And on the one hand, there are some horrors, right? There are some absolute horrors. There's no doubt that there is something about being miles away that means that people kind of say ridiculous things or do ridiculous things. So much so that I ended up starting a Facebook group called OK Stupid. And I just thought it would be me and a few of my girly mates, and we would just be... I started it because this guy sent me a message on one of the apps, and it said, I guess at a 95% match, that means I can come in your mouth. And I was like, what? What a hideous thing to say. So I kind of shared it, and a bunch of my female friends immediately started posting their own screenshots. And I was like, we need a group for this. So I started OK Stupid, and I guess it has 500 members now. I mean, people just keep adding their friends and being like, oh my goodness, you would love this. And you have a great story about this, and sharing things. And every time it kind of gets mentioned, we get a whole slew of new requests, people wanting to join and share their own horror stories. So there are definitely loads of horror stories out there. And I feel like also it's quite good sometimes to have a conversation that goes, that message made me feel uncomfortable and I can't really put my finger on why. And then somebody else will go, I'll tell you why. I mean, this is weird. Why is he telling you this? You haven't asked. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Well, he's just gotten sexual way too quickly there. He hasn't even asked. Oh, you're right. He hasn't. So I think it's a really useful group. And a lot of my friends I know, come to the group before they make a decision. I was thinking of blocking this guy, but am I being unreasonable? And we'll all be like, let's have a look. Well, okay, so maybe he meant this, or maybe he didn't mean it like that. And we sort of try and help people stay a bit level-headed. And having said that, so I have loads and loads of horror stories because I've seen them on my group. But I personally think that online dating is still the best way to date. I don't think that it would be better to go back to meeting people in bars, because you meet people in bars and you are already in a conversation with them before you know like what their political position is, or like what they do for a living, or all this kind of stuff. Like when you are dating people online, if those things matter to you, you can ask them early on. In fact, you can put in your profile, no Tories. You can just put that. And if you don't want to date Tories, you don't have to date Tories, right? And the same goes for any particular way that you want to date. So, I don't do monogamy. I don't want to date monogamous guys because they're not going to get what they want from me. So in a bar, that's something that, 9/10 of people, it's a problem. So you're going to have that conversation. Oh, listen, blah, 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 blah. Oh, listen, here's this thing. But I can just put it straight at the top of my profile, and anybody who that's a problem for, off they go. I don't even know which way you swipe it these days. You do like or not like, don't you? So I think it's the best way to date. Also, there is an inherent problem with dating the sort of old-fashioned way where your friend goes, oh, you would like this guy. He's really nice. You guys would get on. And you end up going out with like, your mom's hairdresser's son or something like this. And you're like, but the thing is, he's awful and you don't have anything in common. And actually, he's kind of creeping you out. But in that world, you don't want to be rude to your mom or the hairdresser. So you end up like putting up with him for a couple of hours, like, oh, sure, we could definitely see each other again. But with someone you've met online, you have no commitment or connection to them. You can literally sort of finish half your beer and go, oh, my goodness me, 8:15 already. Well, lovely to meet you. Whoosh, get me a taxi, disappear into the ether. And I just think that I don't feel any sense of guilt about that. And perhaps I should. Perhaps I'm a terrible person for walking out of dates. But, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and I don't see why I should waste time when I know something's not going anywhere. And especially not if somebody is giving me the creeps and I don't want to hang out with them. And actually, if they're really creepy, I'd rather connect with them online and they can send me their unsolicited dick pics. And then I can go, I know I'm not into this. I know before I've spent 2 hours in a bar going, oh, really? Oh, your ex-girlfriend sounds terrible, while you're thinking, oh, my goodness, she was lucky to get out. Well done, you. It makes relationships much more kind of disposable, and you can jump in and jump out and flick, no, yes, yes, yes. And maybe that's a bad thing. But actually, if there's a lot of guys out there who are a disaster, in a lot of ways, it's a good thing. Don't bother wasting 2 hours talking to somebody you know is the wrong thing. Delete, report as inappropriate, and then the website can take the whole profile down if they're really bad. I mean, you've even got a record of it. So if it's really horrendous, you could send it to the police. Whereas if you meet somebody in a bar and they start saying really creepy things, then you've got no evidence of that. So I think there's every reason why online dating is the way forward, and it is the best way to date. Especially in lockdown, of course, but that's like now it's the only way to date. And of course, you're going to meet horror shows. And I think the reason that online dating has its problems, if anything, is probably that that online forum is exactly where guys go to watch pornography. I think the rise of online pornography has had an impact on the general quality of men. I think that's going on. It's not their fault, right? But they've watched a lot of pornography, and in pornography, women go, oh, no, I'm not interested. And then they throw their clothes on the floor and wave their erection at you. And you're like, oh, now I'm excited. And men have been falsely led to believe that that's what we want, or that sort of way of behaving, of just sort of bulldozing through and not getting to know people and not having good conversations about consent and communicating is actually sexy or something. And so I think guys do this thinking, right, I know how to impress the chicks. And on the one hand, we need to re-educate men that actually don't behave like that. It's awful and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, until such time as these men have been re-educated, I would much rather be able to get rid of them with this simple gesture than have to have a conversation in a bar and then explain to my mom that actually her hairdresser's friend isn't as good as This is the way forward. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Get them out of my way. In terms of specific dates, I mean, I'm only these days. I'm only on one app. I'm on an app called Field. That's the only one that I'm on, which is a kind of. It used to be Thrinder. It was like a threesome finder app, and now it's more of a sort of general anybody who's a bit alternative. it definitely has loads more men than women on it. So I think that's kind of why I like it, because I'm just a bit sport for choice and I don't have to sort of worry too much about, yeah, not sure, I just won't bother then. I just pick out the people that look really cool. And I don't think I've had a really bad experience off of it. I've had some very funny experiences where I've been sat there thinking, I'm obviously not going to take this any further, but also I kind of want to hear your horrendous stories. And I've had some dates where I've thought, nah, this is not for me, and I've just made my excuses and left. But it's where I met my like boyfriend on there, and we've been together like 3 years now, even though it's very much a hookup app and not a dating app. But I kind of believe in reverse dating. I don't really subscribe to this notion that you like, and maybe I'm like the weirdest radical, whatever, but my attitude is that the best approach is definitely to have sex on the first date if you like someone. Because it's fun and it's nice and you'll have a nice time. And even if you don't see them again, you've had your fun, right? And that's great. And actually new people are exciting and sexy and it's cool. But also, then we know if this is on or not, right? So then the second date, we have the first date, we have a drink, which we do to sort of check that everything's safe and that basics have been covered. And then the next date, you can go for dinner and find out if you've really got anything deeper in common, whether you can sustain a conversation. And you're not sat there going, oh, I've got to impress this person, otherwise you won't want to have sex with me. I already know he wants to have sex with me. We did it last week. That's not, you don't have to worry about that. You're now in a new world of, we're into each other. This is hot. Do we want to do this regularly? Or are we just going to go, that was fun, have a nice life, hope it goes well for you. I wouldn't want to sort of go rushing into like, day one, we've got to talk about whether this is going to involve commitment or whatever. Like, just, I want my committed relationships to be based on I'm having a wonderful time and I want to do this again and I want to do this regularly, not based on I set out saying I wanted this and not until I get this will I be prepared to get into a physical relationship. I think there are better reasons to see me again than because I still haven't put out. I definitely wouldn't ever go into a relationship having that conversation about commitment early on. I see so many people who are like, well, I'm going to put on my profile that I want to get married within a year and have 2 kids and do this, that, and the other. And I think that is kind of a dangerous, and it's also a wildly off-putting way to do things, because then people send you a message, oh, hey, I like your hair. And it's like, yes, but do you want 3 children? And you're like, whoa, like, I'm not sure yet. I mean, they'd have your lovely hair, but also let's just see where this goes. I think it's a mistake to go about things the other way around. But obviously people can live their lives how they want to. Because I'm polyamorous, I'm not looking for somebody who fills every requirement I have or ticks every box or satisfies every single possible. And I'm not trying to find the most amazing possible person in the whole world that I could possibly be with. I'm just meeting people and going, would being involved with this person add something to my life? Yeah, that would be fun. Do I want to be involved with this person? Yeah, that would be fun. I'd be into that. That would be cool. So it's very much a question of, is there something good about this? Not a question of what's wrong with this? Is this not great? Is this, are they tall enough? Are they this enough? Are they that enough? Because if I want to date somebody tall, I date some tall people. I can go out on a date with somebody tall, and then the next week I can go on a date with somebody who isn't tall, but perhaps they have other qualities that I appreciate. Perhaps they make me laugh, or they're amazing in bed, or they are super smart and I love talking about highbrow stuff with them, or whatever. You don't have to, because of the way I date, I'm not in a position of trying to tick off all these boxes or rule things out. I'm just looking for people who add something to my life. And So in that sense, I'm reverse dating as well. Yeah. I've been on OkCupid, and OkCupid, you can set your settings to non-monogamous, and you can say, only show me non-monogamous people. So I've done that. Oh, I went on another one for a little while. I was in Edinburgh, and there weren't very many people on Field in Edinburgh. So I went on Happen, and I did meet, and I met somebody on Happen, and they were lovely, and I still date him, and he's lovely. But I didn't like the way that it was like telling everybody else in the bar that I was there kind of thing. It felt too intrusive on my privacy. I don't mind when the app says, oh, these people are 2 kilometers away, like fine. But I don't like being on an app where it's like giving such a lot of detail about your location. And it also seemed to like constantly tell me like, oh, this guy's interested. And then when I'd look, this guy would be like in his 70s, and I'd be like, where they don't seem to be very good on letting you set parameters of like, don't bother showing my profile to the following types of people who I'm not interested in. The one thing that I did that was quite funny was I was staying in Bratislava at a film festival, and there was hardly anybody on any of the apps in Bratislava, but there were quite a few people in Vienna, which is like 40 kilometers away. And so I was chatting to a few people in Vienna and going, you know, if you fancy, I'm not coming to Vienna, but if anybody fancies driving across the border and hanging out for the day, or has any business reason to be here, you know, it'd be lovely to meet up with somebody. And then a guy came up, and it was like 40 kilometers away. And so I started chatting to him, and he seemed really nice. And I was like, oh, if you want to drive over to Bratislava, you're super welcome. It would be lovely. And he was like, yeah, I'll come this afternoon. And I was like, oh, great. That would be lovely. I'm free, you know, but sort of wasn't expecting anyone to bite my finger off quite so quickly. And then he appeared, and I realized that he wasn't from Vienna. He was from like 40 kilometers the other direction across the border in Hungary. And he lived in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere in Hungary. He's on every single app in Christendom, and he's never had a message in his whole life. He was like, stand aside, I'll drive across any country to see you. And he was absolutely lovely. We still chat and stuff. I mean, I haven't been out there to catch up with him again, but we had a lovely time, and it was all super fun. But yeah, I just assumed because it said 40 kilometers that he was in Vienna, because that's like the obvious place. That's actually, it was like totally the other direction, this little tiny place in Hungary. And he was like, a person wants to talk on an app, like stop everything. Screeched over at twice the speed limit. He still chats to me online all the time, like, oh, I'm going to come to London one day. And I'm like, you can meet all my friends. Everyone would love to date you. And he's like, oh, that would be so good. Yeah, I don't think there's been much action since then. I strongly dislike people having a profile without a picture, because really only one of two things is going on. Firstly, they're cheating on somebody. Secondly, they're asking for something which they're ashamed of, you know, and I don't think there's any reason to be ashamed. Like, you know, if what you're asking for is just something that you enjoy, then you should feel confident to just ask for it. And if what you're asking for is something that is creepy and weird, then you should be asking yourself why that's what you're looking for. But the other thing is that it happens a lot with guys who maybe don't think they're that hot, but they're hoping that they can get chatting to women. And then when the women do find out what they look like, well, they'll be a bit engaged, and it'll be too late for them to back out, or it'll be awkward to back out. So I really don't like guys not having a profile picture. I don't think it's a good way to date, because it matters what you look like. Do I fancy this person or not? So I have a policy, and I've shared it on OK Stupid, so quite a few of the women on there do it as well, where if we see a profile without a picture, we immediately match, and then we say, please send us a picture. And then when they send a picture, we reply, no thanks. Because if you want to date without a picture, then you presumably have to be ready for me to say no. And if you can't handle that, you shouldn't, you know, just put your picture up. And then if people don't fancy you, they won't click you. But I just feel like people who are going to try and hold off, they need to get used to the idea that we're allowed to go, what do you look like? Oh, no, definitely not my type at all. And sometimes they go, okay, thanks. And other times they go, oh, why? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, you want a full head to toe critique? Because I can, but it feels like I'm dumping you twice. You know, how many times around would you like me to tell you I'm not interested? Yeah, so it's kind of a policy I have. We have quite a lot of interesting things come up on OK Stupid. Like, for example, some guys will send the same message to loads and loads and loads of women. And then usually we will have shared it on the group. And then we might between us write like an automated message from the app, saying that they've been spamming their account and they're going to get it closed down or something. But in fact, we've just agreed on the exact text, and we've all copied and pasted it back to him. So he's going to get 8 versions of this. You are spamming this app and your account is going to be blocked. And then he's like immediately, you know, stops doing it, knows he's been rumbled, doesn't realize that in fact, it's not the app doing that. It's us doing that because we're talking about him. And so many times something comes up on there, somebody shares a profile, oh, this guy did this and it was creepy, and somebody else goes, look at this, I had exactly the same thing, look at this, I found him on Instagram and look at this picture. This is weird. And, and look, if you scroll down his Instagram, he does appear to have a girlfriend, hasn't mentioned her in his profile. And I'm afraid, guys, thanks to groups like mine, your dodgy dealings are about to be numbered. It's great to have that checking in. And so many times we spot a problem before it happens because we're like, oh, that old trick. I fell for that once, way back when. Let me explain how to skip it. Yeah. It's not that there aren't women that create problems, but the problems you tend to get as a guy is that you're being hit up like catfished by bots. So that happens a lot to guys I know, is that they get, if you get a picture of a woman, she's absolutely stunning, but, so here it'll say stock photograph, or if you put her image into Google, she's a Russian model. That stuff happens a lot. And guys, and guys get roped into having long conversations and then, if you could give me some money, I could fly over. Or, it's done as a way of catfishing for supporters for your page or whatever. So follow my Instagram, follow my this, follow my that. And in fact, as a performer, I've been urged to do it myself, to go on dating apps and say, hey, if you want to hang out with me, my show is at this venue at this time, here's the ticket link. Hey, just come along and we'll have a drink after, as a way of getting ticket sales up, getting some advertising online and stuff. And I've always gone, no, I'm not going to do that because I think it's dishonest and unfair. And I'll chat to people on apps and go, I'm not really looking for dates, but, I'm in town, hang out and have a coffee. But I won't do it just as a sort of raw marketing tool because I think it's sucky. But yeah, when it comes to being a problem, it does seem to be more men that tend to be a problem. But I think that a lot of that comes down to what people are looking for and what people think they should be looking for. So I think that guys might feel quite a lot of pressure to be I'm just looking for something casual and I don't want anything serious and I have sex all the time, and this kind of wanting to sound super experienced. That always makes me laugh when guys say they're experienced. It's like, I have done this before. Okay, good. I hope it went well. Or one that really makes me is guys who will, as one of their profile pictures, this is one of my real bugbears. As one of their profile pictures, there'll be a screenshot of an email from a former partner saying they're really good in bed. It'll just be like a message that's like, hey, Simon, just to say your oral skills were so mind-blowing last night. I can't stop thinking about it. And he'll have screenshotted that and put it as his profile. And you're like, oh, it's so needy. It's so yeah. And we have a list on OK Stupid of instant no's of things that we're like, whoa, that needs to not happen. The obvious ones, photo of them with their arm around a sedated tiger, obviously, stuff like that. Or photos of them with their children or with a bunch of mates and everybody else has got their faces blurred out. I never understand where there's only one photo and it's of them going, in a really weird angle with taken in a bathroom with the shirt half off and I'm trying to suck in. And you're like, just sit in front of a camera and smile and go, this is what I look like. Or guys where there's not a single smile where every photo is. You're like, okay, we get you can do smouldering, but can you do pleasant? Because that would be nice, wouldn't it? We'd all quite like a bit of pleasant once in a while. Guys whose profile picture is just a picture of an array of sex toys they own and wish to use. And I'm like, all right, well done. You run a shop, do you? When people say what they're interested in, some guys write, I'm interested in pushing boundaries. I'm like, oh, right, because I'm interested in having my boundaries aggressively respected. Sort of why they're called boundaries, not serving suggestions, you weirdo. Or when people don't put anything in their profile and they put just ask. Well, I've gone to the trouble of looking at your profile. Just give me a hint, even just I enjoy gardening and I love threesomes. All right, okay, at least we know we've got a starting point here. But ask me anything. Right, okay, what would you put in your profile if you weren't being lazy? And then people who message you and they've got no profile, but they've paid to be on the premium service. You're like, so you're paying £14 a month and you haven't even put a picture up. You'll just get more hits if you do. Just people be more interested in you. So there's a lot of things, and I think there's a whole list of them as well on our Facebook group, on the OK Stupid group. People keep suggesting more, oh my goodness, yeah. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? So it's nice to get those sort of shares around. I also think that it's a cultural thing that men are encouraged to think that they're being cheeky and that it's kind of, hey, thought you might want to see this. And you're like, okay. Whereas I don't think, even romantic comedies, which you would think I was being quite, aimed at women, even romantic comedies, quite often the big love scene at the end is like, she thinks he's not interested and then he just grabs her. And you're like, well, that's not, we've got the sort of Love Actually, he stands outside her house with a load of signboards. No, that's creepy. And then over Christmas, of course, they were showing the old classic 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, where they just abduct some women and take them into the mountains and trap them there for months. And we've still just grown up in a world where that's seen as romantic. So the idea that guys have to be really forward is a little bit ingrained in our culture. And I think some guys are terrible at it. And also, I don't know, I personally, if I match with somebody on an app, the first thing I do is I send them a message that says, hey, how are you? Because I just want to be clear that I will make the first move and that's fine. And hopefully, I hope that from that, they understand that they don't then need to constantly be trying to escalate things. And, they can just have a conversation and I'll go, oh, this is really fun. Let's have a drink sometime. In fairness to men, I also think there's an issue that women have been told that what they look like is important and that being sexy is the only thing that matters and that their appearance is key to their value as a human being. And the way that men find them sexy is key to their value as a human being. And so they're on these apps and they're wanting somebody to tell them they look attractive. And to be honest, once they've got that, that's kind of the fix for the day. So I do think that there are women that are encouraging this. It must be frustrating when you message somebody and then what she wants is actually just to be told that she's hot. And then that's kind of all that she wanted, because you're then like, oh, and actually I really hate if people message and say, oh, you're hot. Because I'm like, I know what I look like, mate. I'm glad it pleases you. But presumably you wouldn't have messaged me if you thought I was minging. So, I'd much rather somebody sent me a message and said, oh, I see on your profile, it says you're a performer. What sort of stuff do you do? Or, oh, it says you do, it says you're left wing. Let's talk about politics. What did you think of this thing that happened? Or, how's lockdown going? Do you, have you been getting out much? I'd much rather people had a normal, healthy conversation like that rather than like, you are very hot. Because what are you supposed to say to that?
So at this point, we kind of come to the end of the interview and Kate agreed to show me some of the messages and interactions on her Facebook page, OK Stupid. So here's a little bit of that and I'll be back again after.
Here's one. It's, I don't know what app this has come off. Oh, it's on a Whippler, which is supposed to be like a kinky Tinder. And this guy has his opening messages, hello trouble, nice mouth for a sperm deposit. And then a picture of his knob, first message. This guy sent a picture and said, that's me in the photo, but they're not my kids. Okay, reassuring. Great, good to know. And then like weird, creepy things. So this guy's profile says, wow, that was amazing. What's your secret? Well, when I was a kid, I used to eat yogurt without a spoon. Also the super demanding one. So this guy's like, I disconnect after 48 hours if there's no answer. So don't bother matching if you're not going to talk. Okay. Well, yeah, if you're not interested in this and you can't handle this and no crazy people and don't be this and don't be that. So this guy's written, I can't stand the word hate or can't. And then he's written, I can't stand people who. It's literally broken his own rule. Oh, this guy's profile is him dressed as a present, 2 women from God, man standing in bathroom, acting like he's about to take his clothes off. Guys issuing rules about what we should all do. A profile picture of him presumably having just gone down on somebody, whatever he's doing, he'll definitely have an orgasm. A guy bragging about how big his knob is. I want to see where your sexual boundaries lie. This guy wants to listen to you begging for him to stop. Well, I'm already there. I'm streets ahead of you there. Oh, this guy claims to be 23 and in the background there's a picture of the Twin Towers. This guy is in a motel room with a chainsaw and you can see Kathleen has just written, the chainsaw is a hard no for me. Like, yeah. This guy's profile picture is of him being arrested. So many strange things.
So that was Kate Smurthwaite. I'm so grateful to Kate for the time she gave us, not least because she is a professional talking head, for want of a better phrase. And she gave us her time completely gratis and really elevated this project at an early stage. From a personal point of view, I also just wanted to add that in order to prep for this episode, I did a bit of research online about Kate. And I was a little shocked when that research extended to reading the comments about her underneath videos, for example. I mean, wherever you stand on the debates in which she partakes, I really don't get the vitriol and cruelty that people, mostly men I imagine, although it's hard to tell because they're often pretty anonymous, but the nastiness that people spew, it's always so personal and not usually to do with the debate itself. And I guess this relates to things we've heard before on this podcast where men will pop up, throw in a disgusting comment, and then disappear behind the safety of the wall that the internet provides. And although it clearly says more about the sender of the hate than the receiver, it's just horrible. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here. Hey, did you know people say nasty things online? And of course they do. They even found a name for it, trolling. But can we all just be a bit more respectful, please? There you go. I'm sure that will fix the problem. But in general, some really interesting things in Kate's interview. The idea that online dating is the best way we have to meet someone you're actually compatible with, as opposed to the randomness of real-world situations. Or as Kate says, being set up with your mum's hairdresser's son. I learnt about the concept of reverse dating, where you have sex on the first date to get that out of the way. So if you continue to see each other, then it's because you want to spend time together, not just get it on. It's fascinating stuff. So, enough from me. Just to say, if you want to get in touch with the show about anything, we'd love to hear from you. You can write to us or attach a voice note at playingwithmatchespodcast@gmail.com. So that's it. Thanks again to Kate for everything and to you out there for listening. So until next Tuesday, good luck out there and on there. Bye-bye.